you so much for joining me today. If you are new here, then you are very welcome. My name is Jessica and I run this channel called Mental Health Mom. Now, as you can see, I am doing this video today about ways to cope with severe morning sickness, or really any morning sickness. With my first pregnancy, I unfortunately had Hyperemesis Gravidarum, and it was absolutely miserable. So I learned pretty quickly some ways or methods that at least worked for me and helped get me through that really, really trying time. Well, hello. This is baby number 2. Did you say hi? I am currently on pregnancy number 3, and I know a lot of you probably saw my 12 weeks pregnant severe morning sickness vlog. If you didn't, I will link it right up here. You can please check that out whenever you are finished watching this video. That's a really good representation of what it's like to be sick all day. A lot of people refer to morning sickness, but a lot of people are coming around now and calling it pregnancy sickness, because you're seeing it's not just morning sickness for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it lasts all day over several months. For some people, even the entire pregnancy, which is the experience that I had in my first pregnancy. And then a Hyperemesis Gravidarum is pregnancy sickness or morning sickness on just this whole other level. And there's a significant weight loss associated with this form of sickness as well. I think I lost somewhere between 10 and 15 pounds in my first trimester of my first pregnancy. And I started out at about 115 or 120. So you can imagine I was starting to look a little scary. And I just felt awful the whole time. I was hospitalized 3 times during the first and second trimesters of that pregnancy. And there were some days when I literally could not lift my head without puking. A lot of people would push ice chips, like just try ice chips just to keep something down. And when an ice chip would hit my tongue, I would puke. I couldn't drink water. I couldn't drink the beloved ginger ale that everyone says to drink. I couldn't eat ice chips. Literally nothing would work. It eventually did get better. There were some preventative strategies I had and some preventative measures that I took that I noticed helped after a certain amount of time. And so I'm going to be sharing those with you today. These are tips that I have used in all 3 of my pregnancies just to help alleviate some of those severe pregnancy sickness symptoms. These are things that worked for me. I checked with my medical professionals beforehand, before trying any of these. And these are things, if they work for you, great, but definitely do not try any of these things without checking with your medical professional first. And on the same token, if you have had a negative experience with something that I have in this video, then please leave that in the comment section. I really want this to be an informative video for everyone. I want the comment section to be a resource for people who are viewing this video as well, because when you have severe pregnancy sickness, you're sort of just grasping at straws, just trying whatever you can. And so please share your experiences in the comment section as well. But here is the caveat. Be respectful, guys. We are all adults here. Let's be civil. Again, I am not trying to put anyone at risk here. I am not a medical professional. I am just sharing my experience and what worked for me. And so, if you leave a nasty, disrespectful comment in any way, it will just be deleted. You won't hurt my feelings. I will go on with my beautiful life that I love, and I will just be like, oh, that poor miserable person. There is no need to be rude. Your comment will be deleted if you are rude. There are several examples across my channel where you see people disagreeing with me, and that is completely fine. I am very open to having a dialogue and learning more. I'm very open to being wrong, but again, these are just my experiences, and I recommend that everyone check with their medical providers before they try any of these things. I certainly did. I didn't just try these things and, you know, put my baby at risk. I checked with my OB, I checked with my midwife, because at the practice I used for my first 2 pregnancies, we had both. And I checked with several different providers. And with every pregnancy, I continue to check with my providers to make sure that these things are safe for where I am at that point in pregnancy. And at that point in my own life, you know, our health changes as we get older and things of that nature. So keep your comments respectful and definitely check with your medical providers before you try any of these things.
For those of you who are interested, I also wanted to invite you to check us out on Instagram. My handle is @mental.health.mom, and there you will find additional updates as well as me sharing some of my favorite products and fun things that are happening throughout the week. See you there.
So the very first thing is a preventative measure, and that is making sure you get enough sleep. Sleep is absolutely a game changer when it comes to morning sickness. You're going to be extremely tired when you are in your first trimester because your body is making all of the really difficult, important, and challenging things to make. I mean, consider the fact that you are creating an entire brain. Your body is creating an entire placenta that it uses to nourish your baby throughout the entire pregnancy. Your baby starts out looking like a tadpole, and then by the end of the first trimester, it actually has arms and legs and looks like a human. That is a ridiculous feat to happen in 3 to 4 months. So you're going to be very tired, and I recommend, especially if you don't have any kids, that you rest as often as you can. I noticed every single pregnancy that on the nights I didn't get enough sleep, or if I got very little sleep, my pregnancy sickness was always so much worse, so much worse. Even in my first pregnancy when I didn't have any kids, I really struggled with insomnia, and I was trying to work at the time. A lot of times I couldn't make it because I was just that sick. But on the nights when I didn't get any sleep, my nausea was always so much worse. I puked so much more often, and sleep really was the game changer. A lot of people struggle with insomnia in the first trimester. I think that probably is one of the reasons that pregnancy sickness just kind of runs rampant for a lot of people. But for me, definitely, when I was able to get good sleep, it made all the difference. So what I'm about to say probably goes against a lot of things that you have heard, but I found that actually not eating a lot first thing in the morning helped me a lot, because a lot of times I felt so sick that if I would try to eat to feel better, I would just be by the toilet retching for hours and hours and hours. What really did seem to help is if I woke up during the middle of the night and ate something high in fiber and high in protein. To be particular, if I ate apples, now I cut them up into very, very small pieces and ate them very, very slowly. But I would eat apples with peanut butter or almond butter, something high in protein, because if you have that high protein count, that really will curb a lot of times your nausea and your pregnancy sickness. It also seems to help a lot with the headaches as well. And the fiber from the apple will slow down the rate at which you digest that snack. So it will really curb that sickness that tends to be, even though it lasts all day, tends to be just a lot worse in the morning after you're breaking fast from the night before. Hopefully you've gotten some sleep, so you haven't been eating. I found that if I did have a snack, just whenever I would get up to pee or when I was tossing and turning, again, just teeny tiny pieces of apples with peanut butter or some sort of nut butter on them. Remember, high fiber, high protein. That really would help me the next day. But again, that was during the night before. A lot of people try to push, first thing when you wake up, grab a bite to eat, and that will keep you from getting sick. Well, that was never the case for me. I was always very, very sick first thing when I would wake up, and anything that I would eat would just come back up. So what I stopped doing really was eating, because then my body didn't have as much fuel from which to vomit. I was vomiting so much more often if I would eat in the morning. Normally what I would do is I would wait for a lot of the nausea to calm down as much as it was going to, and whenever, the pressure left my head, whenever I could look at food without wanting to puke or smell food without wanting to puke, then that's when I would eat. When the food actually looked somewhat desirable. If it didn't look desirable, I didn't even try it. So I noticed that as far as keeping liquids down or any sort of nourishment, again, there were times when I couldn't keep ice chips down. One thing that would really, really help is if I had something that was full of ice, so it had to be extremely cold. And I noticed that the ice chips were better than the regular ice cubes because sometimes I could chew on them and that would help a lot. But something that was filled to the brim with ice, mostly ice, and a little bit fizzy, so like soda water, Sprite, ginger ale, anything like that. And then I would just douse it with lemons. Extremely cold, fizzy, and mostly sour seemed to be the magic combination that allowed me to keep a lot of things down. Now, the next thing I'm going to suggest, of course, has its limitations, because I found that something caffeinated really helped. Think about the things that you really struggle with: energy levels, headaches, nausea. Caffeine really helps with all of those things significantly. Now, I always kept my caffeine intake below 100 milligrams of caffeine every day. I believe the World Health Organization recommends that you keep it below 300, and some other association, I forget which one it is, recommends that you keep it below 200. Just to be safe, I always kept it below 100, and I really only needed it first thing in the morning, first thing in the day when I was just trying to get going. It seemed like if I could survive the morning, the rest of the day was still hard. I was still puking, but if I could survive the morning, it's like I could somehow survive the rest of the day. And so, a Coke would really, really help with that when I could keep it down. I hated the taste of Coke. I definitely hated the taste of coffee, when typically coffee is my precious. Anytime, you guys probably saw this on my first pregnancy video, but anytime I hate the taste of coffee, I know that I am pregnant. So Coke was really my go-to, and I, just like anything else that I was trying to hold down at the time, would just douse the Coke in lemon juice. It was not Coke by the time I was done with it, but I found that the caffeine really helped get me going. It helped my energy levels, the headaches, the nausea, of course. It just really made a big difference. Again, I stayed within safe amounts, and if you have some sort of a caffeine intolerance or a caffeine sensitivity, you really want to check on whether or not this is going to be a good idea for you. I know a lot of women give up caffeine entirely during their pregnancy, but when you're really sick, caffeine does help a lot with those symptoms. Again, keeping it within safe amounts. I had below 100 milligrams every day, and I didn't drink it every day. I drank it when I needed it, which is, what I did every single pregnancy, and what I recommend for you if your doctor and medical professional says it's okay. So one thing that was recommended to me from my prenatal yoga teacher was increasing my B12. Of course, checking with my doctor first, which again, you should do before you try it. But she said, hey, if you're having trouble with nausea and if you're, unable to keep anything down, then check with your doctor, see if you can increase your B12. I checked with my midwife. They said it was totally fine for me to increase my B12, and I actually chose the B12 sublinguals, I believe they're called, the ones that just dissolve in your mouth. I took the amount that was recommended to me by my midwife, which I'm not going to share with you because you should check with your midwife and your doctor, but just that one step really helped immensely. And again, it seemed to help not only how often I was puking, that definitely decreased, but it helped the other big thing that you struggle with in the first trimester and throughout pregnancy, which was the energy levels. It even seemed to improve my mood, which I know B12 is known to do that. adding B12 in really made such a significant difference in the nausea, the energy levels, my mood, and I think it even helped with the headaches as well. Now the next couple things that I'm going to recommend have probably already been recommended to you if you are on the more extreme side or the more severe side of pregnancy sickness, and these are, of course, pharmaceutical medications. I am not someone who enjoys taking medication. I always try to do things the natural way. I actually had my first baby completely naturally, and then this baby I tried to have naturally. If you guys saw that vlog, I have both of my vlogs listed in a playlist down below. But I ended up having an epidural with her like 20 minutes before I had her, and I hated it. I hated the epidural. So that shows you I'm not someone who's crazy about medications at all. As I previously mentioned, I was hospitalized 3 times with my first pregnancy because I got so severely dehydrated. And at that time, they gave me medication just so I could hold down the fluids that they were giving me. And they actually tried at the hospital to give me fluids without promethazine or Zofran or anything like that. But I started puking violently and couldn't keep anything down. Even though the fluids were being given to me intravenously, I was still puking. I literally could not stop puking. And so they ended up giving me promethazine intravenously just to basically knock me out so that I could keep some of the fluids down. It did settle my stomach a lot. I ended up keeping, I think, all the fluids down that they gave me after that. And from that point on, that's basically what they did. Anytime I went to the hospital, they knocked me out and gave me some fluids and then sent me home. They did after this send me home with some promethazine as well. They didn't give me pills. They gave me promethazine suppositories because I couldn't hold the pills down. So the promethazine really did help. You know, I took it only as a last resort. That's how I've always treated any of the medications that I've been given, unless it's something like an antibiotic where you have to take it, you know what I'm saying. But Tylenol, anything that has ever been recommended as safe for pregnancy, I only take it as a last resort. In many cases, it was to keep me from being hospitalized again. I would take the promethazine, and as I was sort of drifting off to sleep and things like that, I would try to just keep some sort of a liquid down. People who don't have severe morning sickness just do not understand. A lot of us don't like taking medications, but it literally was the only thing I could do to keep any liquid down. This is not even food. This is just liquid. And so, again, as a last resort, I was given a promethazine prescription from my doctor. I never could take Zofran because that actually caused migraines for me. Headaches are a side effect of Zofran, and I'm prone to migraines anyway, so that always caused migraines for me. And the diclegis just really didn't seem to work at all for nausea. For me, for some reason, it made me extremely sleepy, which was fine, but it didn't kill the nausea. I know a lot of people really like that. So maybe your doctor has talked to you about this, or your midwife. Maybe they've discussed these options with you. Again, I took these as a last resort when I absolutely had to, and it did save me a few trips from going to the hospital just from being so dehydrated. So I mentioned it earlier, but BioLite is a lifesaver when it comes to staying hydrated and staying out of the hospital if you are having severe morning sickness and you're getting dehydrated. A little bit of BioLite or liquid IV, as a lot of people call it. Are those the same thing? I don't know if they're the same thing. Tell me down below. But a little bit of that really goes a long way, and so you can drink only a tiny amount and it's still going to hydrate you so much more than anything else you'll drink, including things like Gatorade or Powerade. I do not like the taste of it. I, of course, didn't like the taste of it during any of my pregnancies, still do not. And so I would find ways to jazz it up a little. Again, because I was putting lemon on everything whenever I was really struggling with morning sickness or pregnancy sickness, I would just jazz the BioLite up with some lemon, and that really helped me to keep it down. What also helps is taking very small sips. you're not trying to flood your stomach at one time. You're not gulping. Straws really help with this as well. Get a straw and take very, very small sips. That will make all the difference. Just get a little bit on your tongue. Find out actually what you can tolerate without puking. Sometimes what I would do is get just a little bit of the drink on my tongue and then put, some ice chips on my tongue and slosh it around, and that would really keep me from throwing the drink back up. So really find what works for you. Small sips do seem to work really well for a lot of people. The ice chips really seem to work well for a lot of people. If that's not working, like at times it didn't work for me, then you are on the extreme side of things, and I'm so sorry. But definitely try these things if your provider says that it's okay. Okay, so the next couple things that I'm going to recommend really worked in cases of acute nausea. So I was somewhere like in line at the grocery store or in line at Disney, like I was with my second pregnancy, because that was before the pandemic, and so we were in crowded lines at Disney, and suddenly I would have to puke. And strangers, especially now, but even before the pandemic, really did not appreciate you puking all over their shoes or their clothes and things of that nature. They didn't care that you were pregnant, like, don't puke on me, and I get it, it's gross. So the things I'm going to recommend now are for acute instances. Again, don't hate on me for any of these things. Don't try them without checking with your doctor first. Check with your doctor and then try them if they say it's okay. Okay, so the first thing that really helped immensely in the moment to keep me from puking was actually rubbing alcohol. And if you Google this, you're going to get all sorts of different information. So I recommend that you don't Google it. Ask your doctor. In all of these cases, again, ask your doctor. I asked my doctors and my midwife, and they all said that it was totally fine. Basically what happened is that I was in line at Disney, and I kept having these instances where I was puking or I was about to puke on while I was in this crowded line at Disney. And a couple that we went with, the man is actually an EMT. And so he had some alcohol pads on him in his first aid kit that of course he brought because that's brilliant. And he's like, here, smell this. And it would immediately take the nausea away. I would go from being on the brink of puking to suddenly I'm fine. And I remembered that when I had my appendectomy back in 2012, so I had my appendix removed, I was really, really nauseous after the surgery. And so the anesthesiologist actually had some of the nurses on staff to douse some cotton balls in rubbing alcohol, and then they put them in a Ziploc bag. And anytime I felt like I was about to puke, I would just open the Ziploc bag and give it a little smell, and it would make the acute nausea go away. I stopped puking. I checked with my midwife about this, and she said, yes, it's absolutely fine. We actually use it a lot in the hospital, when someone's waiting in the hallway and they haven't been given their room yet, so, it's hard to give them meds at that point. We'll actually give them alcohol pads to smell to keep them from throwing up, and it works really, really well. It's used all over the world in several different types of cultures. I asked an OB at the practice as well, and they said, absolutely, we use it all the time in the hospital. You're not huffing it, you're not snorting it, you're not drinking it, you're not in an unventilated area just sniffing alcohol all day, every day for hours and hours and hours. That's ridiculous. No, you're just using it for acute treatment when you're about to puke. And so again, don't hate on me if you disagree with this. Now, if you have had a bad reaction to something like this, again, leave it in the comment section. I know one of the questions they asked me is, are you asthmatic? Sometimes if you smell a lot of it in one day, which I never have done, it can cause some irritation if you're asthmatic. So that's one thing that they said to be on the lookout for. Again, ask your doctor. This really worked for me. but I'm not suggesting it to you without asking your medical professional first. In my 12 weeks pregnant morning sickness vlog, you actually see me somewhere in the video smelling a container of alcohol wipes. I was trying to change my baby's diaper, I was trying to take care of my 2 little ones, and I was puking the whole day. Like, no matter what I did, I was just puking. And it helped immensely. I have used this, particularly, I had forgotten about it on my first pregnancy, but on my last 2 pregnancies, I've used it as needed. And it really is a lifesaver if you're, standing in line at Disney or the grocery store or driving. Driving is a really inconvenient time to puke. So this has really been a lifesaver for me. Yes. So the next and final tip that worked really well for me, in the moment, again for treating acute nausea when I was about to puke, is pushing on your pressure point, P6 or pericardium 6. It's about here in your wrist. This is something you can Google. And this is an acupuncture technique that is often applied for people who are going through chemo and have really bad nausea. It works really well also if you are pregnant. They actually make wristbands for women who are pregnant that focus on this P6 area or P6 pressure point. I've never tried the wristbands. I just would use the P6 pressure point anytime I was feeling nauseous, like when I'm about to puke. I would press on that pressure point and it really does wonders. I noticed it especially helped if I held my head back while I pressed on the pressure point, because then that would help to keep any vomit that was trying to come to the surface. That would sort of help to keep it down, help to keep things a little more calm just while this pressure point is doing its magic. I believe the traditional way is pressing on it for 2 to 3 minutes, and then after the 2 to 3 minutes you really feel all of the nausea start to subside. I have found that it works more quickly than that. So again, I always used this when I was about to puke, like in the moment, press the pressure point and it keeps me from puking, especially if I hold my head back. So check with your provider, see if this is safe for you. It's typically deemed safe in pregnancy. There are some pressure points that are used to treat nausea that have not been deemed safe during pregnancy, but the P6 is usually a safe one. And yeah, check with your provider, see if it works for you. Definitely worked for me. So that is it, you guys. I did want to include some honorable mentions. Some people were so nice to leave comments below my 12 weeks pregnant morning sickness vlog. And so I encourage you to check that vlog out. I have it linked right up here. Check the comment section. So many people gave such great advice, tips that worked for them when they were really sick during pregnancy. Some people said a lot of the same things that I have said. Some people also said things like B6 and magnesium. It just seems that there are lots of different magic combinations for lots of different people. So I certainly hope that you have enjoyed this video. I certainly hope that you have found it helpful. Again, please check with your medical provider before trying any of these things. I don't recommend it for you without first checking with your provider, because we're all so different. But I do hope you found it helpful, and thank you so much for hanging in there with me today. If you are experiencing pregnancy sickness, and especially the more severe versions, I'm so very sorry. I think a lot of people don't really appreciate how hard it can be to be pregnant. I know with my first baby, I went into it thinking that it was going to be this really joyous experience. I was going to love being pregnant and I was just going to be glowing. And I felt so guilty for so much of the pregnancy because I wasn't able to enjoy it. And I felt really guilty that I wasn't enjoying my pregnancy. But when you're so sick that you can't work, you can't even keep ice down, you can't lift your head without puking, it really diminishes your quality of life. Is it worth it? Absolutely. But I just wanted to say that because I think a lot of people don't see that side of pregnancy. Sometimes pregnancy is very, very hard. And I am with you. I understand. I empathize with you. I've been in your shoes. Hang in there. Do the best you can. Take care of yourself. And things will get better. They absolutely will get better. Tell me about your experience with severe morning sickness or pregnancy sickness, or even HG if that's what you had. Let me know your experience. I'd love to hear about it and things that were really helpful for you. Even if you had some negative reactions to some of the tips that I suggested, let me know about that in the comments section as well. I really, again, want this to be a resource for people who are struggling, because women who are struggling with severe pregnancy sickness really just need as many resources as they can get. So, stop making so much noise. So please do let me know what really worked for you. What did I not mention? What have you tried that worked really well that I didn't mention in this video? I would love to hear that as well. Thanks for hanging in with me and my little co-host. We will see you guys next time. Say bye. Bye-bye. Oh, good job.